Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's CC-Webinar.live keynote and panel discussion session. And thank you for joining. We would also like to thank Ibasis for sponsoring today's session. Now, I would like to pass on the microphone to Arun to introduce the keynote speaker and later on to moderate the session. For audience, if you're joining us virtually and you have any questions to our keynote speaker or our panelists, please do use the chat box option. That's all from my side. Arun, over to you.
Good day to you all. I hope you're all having a great day wherever you are in the world. I'm sorry we could not all be together, but this is the closest we'll get, and hopefully soon enough we'll be all sharing a drink together in a nice warm country. So my name is Arun Dahiri. I'm the MD of Red Dawn Consulting. I think most of you know me. I've done many of these before, but just very quickly, I run a boutique consultancy business specializing in all things telecoms, media, and technology. We've got two very interesting sessions here. We've got, first of all, a keynote, which I'll introduce just in a second, and then a panel, which is all about mobile wholesale, so expanding out from the fixed world. And we've got, that's about the future evolution and the building blocks. Before we go into that, and before we introduce the esteemed panelists, I would like to introduce Nicolas Barrett from Ibasis, who's going to give us a little introduction as to his business, and who I've had the pleasure of working with in the past. So it'll be a nice refresher for me. Please, Nicolas, take it away.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm starting the presentation now. Thank you. So I think Stefan was the brave one in Germany. I'm the brave one because I'm physically in Lisbon and happy to be there. So I hope that anyway we'll be able to meet each other physically very, very soon. So I'm going to try to be extremely brief, but just want to present you Ibasis and to explain you about our strategy and also our main focus. So a little bit of history. Sorry. Oh, sorry. I don't think it's. Oh, okay, here, there. Small technical issue. Okay. So, so first of all, just to explain who we are. So actually, Ibasis is owned by Tofan, and Tofan has been created by Alexandre Prévost, who was the former CEO of RH International Carrier, as he was totally convinced that the wholesale industry, and especially the carrier industry, needed to be consolidated due to the, let's say, the different challenges it's going through, and mainly, let's say, the voice decline and of course the always optimized price that all the industry is looking for. And so there was definitely some room for an independent player. So he convinced few investors, so okay, let's try to consolidate this wholesale carrier industry. And so his first journey was to acquire the former Altis activities. So SFR in France, Mio in Portugal, so the former Portugal Telecom, and Altis in Dominican Republic. And just a few months later, he also acquired Ibasis, which was a former KPN company. And Ibasis, which is important, the very was a standalone company, but the idea is to use Ibasis, who is I think a quite well-known and successful company for many years, as a platform also to operate. So, and in 2020, so in the middle of, actually not in the middle, at the beginning of the COVID crisis, we also acquired Nosh, the second mobile operator in Portugal, Nosh, the carrier activity of Nosh, in order to reinforce our position in Portugal, in all Portuguese-speaking countries, and also to accelerate on the messaging part, which was an activity that was that Nosh already significantly developed. So today, Ibasis, we decided to use Ibasis as a single brand. So is located in teams located in 18 different countries as an international network, corporation, and so on, and also a different sales team in order to be able to be both a global player, but to be close to our customers and have a local team. Our strategy is really to consolidate this voice industry in order to really it's quite simple. It's size, scale, and efficiency. And I think that we are quite successful for the time being, because now Ibasis we are considered as the number 3 player and the first independent player in this industry. And really the idea is to, of course, to keep investing in the voice, but to use all this, let's say, this cash flow coming from the voice to invest in also other services. As you can see, Ibasis is already an IPX player for, let's say, a mobile data player for many years. But since the acquisition of Ibasis, we significantly, let's say, leverage all the knowledge and the expertise of the teams by onboarding and accelerating also in terms of product portfolio. And the idea is to be a real one-stop shopping for our beloved customers. As I think that we work with most we have long-lasting relationship with most of the tier 1, to not say all the tier 1 of the industry, and really our conviction is that they are looking for maybe less partners, but with more services to provide. And so we enriched our product portfolio by both in the messaging, in the cloud, and also a significant part of our strategy is to highly invest in IoT. So I'm going to be very brief, because I think regarding the audience, I just wanted to show, let's say, 2 of our main focuses. So as I just said, the IoT, the Internet of Things, is definitely a huge market, and we also think that it's just the beginning, because with the 5G coming, of course, so it's maybe I'm not going to say something very new, but definitely this market is going to grow. I think that we see different forecasts. I think in 2025, there are many forecasts saying that there will be 5 times more connected things than mobile subscribers in the world. So I think the challenge of our industry is we do not even know if this figure will not be the double of that, because I think that we feel that with IoT, the sky has almost no limit. And we leverage really our expertise coming from the mobile data industry to be able to have a very flexible and one-stop shopping solution for MNOs, and to resell their coverage, and also, of course, to service providers to have a global player. And I think that, of course, the COVID showed something that remote work was possible, but also that the usage and the digital transformation was definitely there. So just here, a small graph reflecting the impact of Microsoft Teams. So of course, I think that if we take Zoom or other solution, we should have the same type of growth. We can definitely see that the COVID is a market changer in our industry. I think it's, let's say, we don't know if it accelerated, let's say, by 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, but definitely there are different usage. So we of course we already anticipated that, but we definitely to significantly accelerate on the services that we could provide to address this massive change. And we developed different solutions to address all the issues of the cloud solutions of the different players. We developed, let's say, three main products. A solution that we call Carrier Voice for Teamwork. It's basically to provide something which is still extremely valuable, is to provide a local number or to integrate into the solution. So we are already successful by we have a partnership with China Telecom, and we are supporting their corporate business by providing local numbers in different countries. And also we developed to address the CPaaS players, we developed APIs. And last but not least, we are expanding something that we already had, is our quite extensive international access number. So of course, which are not always used for international purposes, but also for domestic purposes. So the idea is to say, of course, for us, it's also a kind of continuing investment in the voice industry, because we think that the traditional voice is going through challenges, but obviously we see that there are still many opportunities into this industry. So I thank you for your time, for your patience, and I see that there are a few people in the room happy to be there in Lisbon, and I would be pleased to go to the panel session. And I'm ready to receive any question, of course.
Okay, I think what we'd like to do is go straight into the panel, and if we have questions, maybe we can have them all at the end, if that's okay, just in the interest of time. Thank you very much for that very insightful discussion about the business. Wanted to jump straight into the panel. So the panel that we have to discuss is all around mobile wholesale. So what we want to focus on is how is that mobile wholesale world evolving? So and secondly, what building blocks do we need in place to make it successful? Okay, so just a quick line on what we mean by mobile wholesale, because from current communities, significantly sort of concerned with the fixed line environment, but obviously mobile drives a lot of the usage. So I just wanted to kind of make that point that it's the combination of the two that we need to really think about, and that's a sort of a gap that we often find is quite large in the industry, is that the two sort of parts don't talk to each other as well as they could do. So on that note, wholesale to our mind is about opening up infrastructure to enable customers to be served better with a broader range of lifestyle services. So that's the kind of commercial benefit of mobile wholesale. With that in mind, I wanted to kind of first of all ask the panelists if you could just spend a few seconds just to say hello and to introduce yourself. Obviously, we know Nicholas already. So Stefan, would you like to just say hello and introduce yourself very briefly?
Good, thanks, Aaron. Yes, hello, Stefan Oefner, my name. I'm from Deutsche Telekom. As of this week, I'm still in charge of what we call the wholesale segment in the segment Europe. So that's a headquarter competence center that spans across all our European operations, with the exception of Germany. And here we support our local operations, specifically on mobile and fixed wholesale related topics. As from next week on, actually, I'll have a new role working in Austria in our local operations, which we just rebranded to Magenta. And here, but they're a bit sticky to the wholesale industry, so I'll be in charge of wholesale there, mobile, fixed, but also do a lot of more work on fiber whole buy and fiber partnering models there. But still, as I said, still part of the DT family, so to say.
Thank you. Okay, Alexei?
Hello, I'm Alexei Janssen, Managing Director of Lang Telecom. We're coming from the voice and messaging wholesale, and we stepped into the mobile wholesale, I would say, or some mobile products a few years ago, and I'll be happy to share some of the experience we had from this business.
Fantastic. So we have 3 panelists. The fourth one, Aiden, sends apologies. So I think we can kick off. So the first question I would like to raise to you is regarding who is this for? What new wholesale segments and propositions do we see emerging? And I thought that Stefan, you might be a good place to start with that, given that you've seen this across many geographies. So would you like to give us your perspectives on that, and then we'll work around the table?
Sure, thanks. So if we really come from the narrow MVNO world, so to say, talking about wholesaling access and connectivity to wholesale partners, this is of course the traditional business that we see for 20 or more years. But still, let's say in the access connectivity piece, we see a high demand from operators or from partners that want to go into a full digital experience, for example. We see new attractive target segments being captured, which are still probably underserved by the full range of services that come from like a traditional operator. So operators or service providers that focus, for example, use elderly. We see a high level of activity also, for example, on the retailer segment, where supermarket chains, for example, try to combine loyalty program with a mobile proposition, and they of course bring a strong brand awareness, a strong base with them. But these are kind of the traditional access voice smartphone type of businesses. Obviously, kind of a no-brainer that there's a lot of attention nowadays on like the IoT side. That's something that we see for already kind of 4 or 5 years, where partners seek connectivity to provide IoT services. Whereas this is something that also operators do. I guess there are 2 spots that are untapped by traditional operators, and one of them is the real global business, where you have large B2B players that really want to have one connectivity partner for a truly global service, but also extremely specialized vertical solutions. I mean, we as operators have, of course, our solution range out, but if it goes to something really dedicated for a vertical, a specific industry, this is really where tailored solutions kick in. And there are partners out there that can really add tremendous value on the basis of our connectivity for dedicated use cases. And apart from the connectivity piece, of course, there's all these adjacent things, which is not really connectivity, but areas where we can monetize together with partners anything that comes around the network. We've been doing more and more on carrier billing, like in Austria with an announcement with the other carriers last week. We do virtual mobile numbers. We put a lot of effort nowadays into mobile connect, mobile identity, where we help, for example, OTTs with identity services that helps them to prevent fraud. So really a win-win for all sides. And I guess there's really a lot more to do also on these non-connectivity piece, where also operators can do more to embark on new services that really have a value add for multiple market sites.
Okay, thank you. Alexei or Nicholas, would you like to expand on that in terms of any sort of propositions and emerging themes that you think would be interesting in the wholesale world?
I think that that's right. I agree with Stefan that let's say the one size fits all is over. I think that we see, and I think that it will be even more the case with the 5G coming, because we see that we have different usage, and it's and thanks to API, we see more and more service providers developing specific solution. So definitely the elderly market is a kind of market, but after we can see that different usage, different need, requiring different quality, level of quality are definitely there. of course, still using the traditional network, but after you need to adapt to specific solutions to give a very, I think the user experience is more important than ever, because as the end user has more and more choice, of course, the level of expectation is definitely there. And so that's what we see. I think that's for our experience, it's definitely what we see in the for all the players in the cloud industry and also in the IoT, where we see that we'll have a few guys, let's say, who wants to control their connectivity because it's part of their core product, which was not at all connectivity, but of course, obviously, it can be the case for the car industry, but not only. So we see new players, and we need to adapt, and I think it's a real challenge for the telco industry. But I'm quite convinced that the only solution is to have a strong wholesale team to be able to address those different markets.
Okay, thank you. Alexei, do you see any interesting propositions and segments emerging in your?
Well, I would say I fully agree with Stefan and Nicholas that there is a need for the tailored, for the customized solution, which is important, and the enterprises, the customers want to see a very deep and analytics, and the 5G is super interesting, and there is a lot of industries that would be influenced and that would need us to be very flexible, very quick, and being able to adjust the products for those customers.
Okay. So just to add to that before we move on to the next one, I think we're witnessing, from the people we're talking to, some very large sort of what I call super MVNO type entrants, the Amazons of this world, looking to sort of get into mobile. And I think that there's the OTT over the top players might start to, I think, want to have mobile in their offering more and more. So I think there's a big wave. I think we've talked about sort of smaller players, niche brand, the elderly segment, the youth segment, etc. But I think potentially some of these huge brands might start to come through. And the reason why I mentioned that is because it leads me to the second question, which is around how do we create a win-win relationship with operators? Because operators obviously might be a bit concerned about, these big players might take my customers, cannibalize. On the other hand, they're torn between that, and I need to use my capacity. So I need to partner with these players, offer a better service. So I think, Nicholas, do you have a view on that? I'm sure you're doing a lot of deals with operators.
I think that first of all, I think a long-term successful relationship, and I think it's very important in our industry because, of course, we are extremely interdependent. Is working only if, let's say, the different players are finding their own interest. So I think that let's be quite pragmatic. Is everyone needs to keep a certain value of the entire value chain. And I think it's important also to respect the MNOs. I mean that without them, okay, if there's no network, no one to invest, no one to monitor a fixed or a mobile network, there are very little services. Okay, there's no OTT with no mobile network. So I think it's important to have this quite long-term view and to say, okay, and to accept the fact that everybody needs to have a decent profit of their operation. I think also transparency and trust are critical. That's also why, at least, we see an interest of this consolidation, because there are maybe sometimes too many players, at least global players, and then after to be able to address a few different markets. I think one of the challenge, of course, is all the regulatory constraints. is also, and I think that it's something that we are all sometimes suffering from the different regulatory bodies who are deciding something to address a certain issue, but most of the time they don't see all the side effects. So of course, I think the only solution for that is to have a unified voice, because I feel that most of the time all the players of the industry are suffering from too strong regulation. So I think that all the bodies that federate the telco industry in general are very important, and we all need to really pay attention to that.
Brilliant. So in terms of talking about operators, I think Stefan, you probably have, being an operator, obviously, what sort of things would you like to see? Yes, if wholesale partners come to you, what do you look for to create a win-win relationship?
To embark a bit on also what Nicholas said, I guess the way we treat it as DT is basically that we treat every partner opportunity as a project, and we spend lots of time into understanding what the business model is that a partner comes with, what his target segment is, and then make an offer in technical, but also like in commercial terms that really fits his needs and is a solution that works for him as well as for us. And that's kind of the exciting thing I love about this job, that you get confronted with all these new ideas. And it's great fun to make them feasible and to make them work. And the win-win, as Nicholas said, is obviously there with the sharing of the benefits and the contribution to the value chain, but also to the risk profile. And there was this nasty thing that we have to spend lots of billions on the spectrum and on the infrastructure, if this is equally on, not equally, but fairly shared. And then if we have a partner that approaches us, obviously we scan it for, is it a new twist, a new idea, a new concept? Does he come with a great channel, a super brand that we don't have, or that we may not have, with a very good product? And then I guess then it's obviously in many cases a clear win-win. If there's the only thing that a partner comes around is, well, I want to be slightly cheaper than what's in the market now online, then don't expect too much excitement, because I guess this is not a sustainable USP that you come up with. But that's kind of the way that we would look at this, like from across the markets that we are looking into.
Okay, so I thought what might be quite interesting is because just looking at the esteemed panelists and backgrounds, is just to sort of slightly point the conversation to the world of enterprise solutions. And the reason I say that is because I'm sure Alexei and Nicholas basically has in their client base a lot of enterprises who want a mixture of perhaps fixed and mobile services, including things like unified communications. And the reason I mentioned that is is it better for you as a service provider to offer that service and combine it with mobile and therefore gain a wholesale service? Do you have any perspectives on the kinds of enterprise solutions and the best way of forming a relationship with an operator to achieve that?
I think that to separate fixed and mobile is harder and harder. I think that definitely, I think, Stefan, you are connecting through your mobile. I think that a few years ago, we could not imagine to have a Visio through a mobile. Okay, it was not an option. And so I think that we always, or we also maybe, I think that we see different products. That's also, we all use different interfaces. And maybe I think there's a need maybe to have all your messages in some place, because I think especially as we are working at very global level, and we see that depending on the region, you see that this region is using more maybe a WhatsApp, another one could be more Viber, another one it could be Teams, or on others. The others are more, let's say, regular voice or messaging. And so I think it's really difficult. I think more and more difficult to differentiate fixed and mobile. I think that anyway, the biggest value is to try to be, at least for us, is to be clear on what we are good at, and also to be, and that's why also few guys also using specific brand. I think this is very much the case in the IoT industry, for instance, is because there are so many things that we need to be clear. I think one of the challenges is to identify what everyone can do. And after for me, the wholesale market, and at least all the service provider, is a fantastic opportunity to address complex customers, which are small companies, and even SOHO, who are often an hybrid between a consumer and an enterprise need. So it's a tough question, and I think there's no unique answer.
Yeah. So I mean, Alexei, do you have any perspectives on enterprise and the sorts of customers that you come across, just generally?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think from our experience, and we are as well, let's say, aiming a lot to the SMB, and they have very specific requirement, and they want to get a certain coverage and stay competitive. And frankly speaking, they value that the provider is independent and is not, because they are, in many cases, they are afraid to be too much connected to one operator, and then want to be able to always stay competitive and always get a competitive offer, and yes, always get the exact coverage. And in many cases, it's a global coverage, and they want a very customized analytical tools over the top. So this is, I think, a huge industry, and I think they're not enough, or there is a huge room for the companies, for the creative companies, who would be tailoring and customizing the exact solutions for the certain industries.
Very good. So that leads us to the next question, which is around the sort of technology, the platform part, in terms of, so we have, if we just paint the picture, and we have the infrastructure and the wholesale environment on one side, and you have the customers on the other side. The bit in the middle is the service delivery, making it happen. So I wondered if any of you have a kind of perspective on what needs to happen for, as sort of best practices for that middle part, which is the platform enablement space. Stefan, do you have any views on, you know, how you think would be a good way for an operator or a wholesale partner to develop a platform environment?
Interesting question, for sure. Yeah, I mean, so far in the traditional MVNO business, most of what we have done is just local or so-called multi-local. We don't see, except for like the ethno segment that we all know, not too many really cross-national MVNO groups that are really successful. And also our largest partner in every market is really a local champion. So there's, from their perspective, legacy, there was no need to have a common pan-European MVNO platform, even though it may look charming to have one plug into separate markets. But as we look further into new businesses, obviously, and if we talk about what if a embedded connectivity device would come from, I don't know, call it Spotify or whatever, for sure they would want into MVNO agreements on 20 European markets to make that live across the continent. So I guess there is a need, especially coming from these, call it OTTs, hyperscalers, whatever, that want to provide services that contain connectivity, to have a lean and efficient connectivity approach to multiple markets. And now, question is, are we good in that from the operator world yet? I don't know. Maybe not to the extent there is a demand from the market side, but also in other businesses, and I mentioned Mobile Connect, Mobile Identity, here we see the emergence of aggregators that make this happen. They say, come to me, I have connectivity into the base of 60 operators in 20 countries. I'll serve your connectivity needs. And so sounds like this is the way forward. And there were good specialists out there. So far, I tend to believe that there are really highly reputed specialists for dedicated services, for numbering, for connectivity as a service, and so forth. So interesting to see where the operators act in that context, whether they stick to the connectivity piece, to the sourcing of the service. I said, so far, I've seen these aggregators to be highly specialized, highly efficient with good platforms. So there's probably a win-win between operators and these aggregators in these segments.
Okay, so just to kind of throw a bit of color into the conversation on the platform side of things. So I'm thinking if we look at the different layers in terms of integrating with a network, the intelligence behind that in terms of analytics, in terms of security features, in terms of provisioning, we move up into provisioning, moving up into the kind of BSS layer, billing, things like the ability to do network slicing, all of these different features. And on top of that, the last layer will be the ability to develop value-added services. Does anybody have any perspective on platform and what in fact you might be doing for either Nicholas or Alexei in terms of developing platform in your business to make it more functional?
Well, that's Nicholas.
Sorry.
You wanna...
No.
Well, of course, it's a constant development of the platform. I think the key point is that you have to address your platform to the right people. You have to, in the enterprises, you have to understand who is using the platform and for what purposes it is served. Is it marketing people, or is it the communication inside the company built on through the platform? But then it comes to the usability and the convenience of the tools that you present. So I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Is there any functionality that you think is really important, perhaps on your roadmap, or that you think would be very useful? For example, is it analytics?
It's analytics mostly. I think that's the key.
And so security.
Well, security as well, of course. I'm not. Well, I'd say, yeah, it is important. It is probably the same important, but again, it depends on which segment and whom do you address your platform, right? So I think security is a must.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And Nicholas, are there any sort of, I know you presented to us earlier on, but are there any key highlights on the sort of technology stroke platform infrastructure side that you think we can learn from, that you might be focusing on and think's important for us to develop to make the whole system more performant?
I think that there are a few things that definitely the simplification is key. So I think that sometimes we have a tendency to develop something which is maybe extremely complex, which can do plenty of things, but sometimes the best platform has first of all, the most reliable one, and the quite also easy to keep operating and to explain, because I think that's for me, it's always interesting to see. I think we are all using Microsoft Office tools, and to see how many features you never use. And I think the parallel is a bit the same. You need to make sure that, as it can be so complex, I think that you need to make sure that you are doing you're focusing on the key ones, and of course with a perfect customer experience. And I think that anyway one of the challenge that we have in front of us will come with the 5G. because I think that the creativity will be definitely there, and maybe too much. So we'll have to make sure that we are not going to match everything, but once again that we are focused on what we are good at.
Yeah. So some of the things that we're witnessing in the platform space are things like artificial intelligence for diagnostics, for things like chatbots for customer care, optimization and networks, all of that sort of thing. And then we're starting to see kind of things like blockchain coming in terms of handoffs between different parties. We're starting to see more value-added services in terms of things like healthcare, fintech integration with third parties, such as payment gateways, such as social media, etc. And those are the sorts of things that when we say platform, we're really witnessing as being, a big take up. Just in the last few minutes, I wanted to ask the last question, which is just a quick fire, really, because we only have a few minutes left, which is about the growth strategies that we should think about with partnering and channels and sort of different revenue streams. So beyond, our own ecosystem, what can you suggest to us to think about going broader? Alexei, do you have a sort of view on that one?
Yeah, well, it was pretty much discussed earlier, but I think it is important, let's say for us, building the product or building the platform where we would be able to provide the right services is and for every company, I think is a huge investment. And I think the way here is partnering with the right solutions provider and combining the platform together, or the pack of services, and it includes the MNOs, it includes the AI, and includes the chat box, because there are certain things you can do yourself, but then you want to add more services, and that's where you have to partner and you have to consolidate.
Okay. Anybody else like to take that question in terms of partnerships? I was thinking about IoT actually, because that does involve quite a few different components. Perhaps you have some view on that one.
I think that anyway, partnership, we have no real other alternative. I think the world is so complex, and the applications are really different. The needs are different. Definitely, for instance, the security aspects are not at all the same from depending on the usage. So I think one of the challenges is to identify the right partner, because the partner also it's also based on the quality of the relationship that you have with him. And I think it's successful if you try to really since day one to really understand and to identify the partners with whom you could work on the long-term basis. And I really think that at least going back maybe to one of the former questions we had, is that the wholesale industry is, I think, also a partner for the MNOs, because there are a few things due to the agility maybe of players like us. This is the only way for many MNOs to address a market in a profitable way. And I think that of course we need to consolidate this partnership ecosystem, and once again to have a long-term view to make it successful.
Okay. All right. Well, we've come up to the end of the session, so I just wanted to kind of wrap up. Does anybody have any last comments they want to share that perhaps they want to get off their chest as a key takeaway before I wrap up? Are we good?
You should visit Portugal.
Sorry?
I encourage you to visit Portugal.
Yeah. Right. So I will just summarize by saying that just taking on board everything you've said, thank you so much for a great discussion, is that I think when we talk about segments and propositions, I think we have the capacity to think bigger in terms of some of the super scale types of wholesale players that might be coming through. Obviously, we talked to them at the early stage, so we obviously have some indication of the kind of huge ones that are coming through, and the big brands, you know, the Virgins of this world, the Tesco's of this world, that have really sort of done very well, you know, in terms of number of customers. So we've got to think about that. I think with the new value-added services that we're seeing coming through, like fintech and that sort of thing, I think we're going to start to see the banking industry, the insurance industry, and that those sort of more financial services and health care companies coming through, particularly with the tracking facilities that we're seeing in IoT. IoT is going to, I think, get us closer to the customers, understanding them. And I think lastly, my main takeaway is that I think if we really want to facilitate, and if operators are willing to open up to soak up the 5G capacity and make the most of the network, is to think about the platform and to make sure that we build good quality, capable infrastructure to be able to provide, you know, easy billing, easy onboarding, easy provisioning, easy lighting up of services. That's my kind of main kind of feedback and takeaway from this conversation. So with that, I think I'll wrap up, and thank you all for your participation.
Thank you, Arun. Dear all, we are at the end of this webinar session, and I would like to thank our keynote speaker, Nicholas, for his interesting presentation, our panelists for sharing the knowledge, and our audience for participating and listening. This panel will be soon available to watch on CC Media portal. We are looking forward to welcoming you in both physical and virtual events this year. For more information, please check our events portal. If you're interested in supporting and sponsoring one of our future branded webinars, contact CC team. For all updates and fresh content, follow us on our 4 social media channels. Also, subscribe to our Telegram news channel to receive exclusive invitations to CC Webinar live sessions. Goodbye for now.